and welcome to the council meeting of March 29th, 2021. On behalf of council and staff, I would like to extend our condolences to Councillor Zabian and his family on the loss of his dear father. This meeting is being held in chambers. We are observing COVID-19 protocols. However, you will note that members of council are spaced around the room to ensure 6 feet of separation. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live. There is no public attendance permitted due to the ministerial order. However, the most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website, and the public may send questions directly to our recording secretary's email at jwest@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting package? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. We will be voting by electronic means on all votes except administrative. Our queuing system cannot be used due to the social distancing. If you wish to speak on a matter, please raise your hand and you will be called upon in order. Please speak clearly as we are depending on the microphone at the front of the room. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? CEO Trope, could you please take the roll call?
Mayor Snow, all of council is present and accounted for.
Thank you very much. CAO, we have been provided with a proposed agenda. Do you have anything to add to that agenda?
Mayor Snow, there's one more item that's going to be added for our in-camera tonight with a property matter that's come up late today.
Thank you. So item 9B will be land issue. Are there any further additions or deletions to our agenda? If there are none, I would accept the motion. Thank you, Councillor Huntley. And the seconder? Thank you, Councillor York. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of our minutes. The minutes of the February 22nd, 2021 council meeting have been distributed for approval. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red and the annotated minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file as approved. Are there any, Councillor Maxwell?
Yes, under the noise bylaw, it says the motion is carried. However, if the councillors who voted against, and it lists everyone.
Okay, so that's item 4B. Okay, the council approved the suggest, and you're saying councillors who voted, oh, it should say who voted for this motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further changes to this set of minutes? All right, those will be accepted as amended. Thank you. Moving on to our business arising. You have before you the second reading of the taxi bylaw. We have a recommendation coming from the first reading of the taxi bylaw was approved at the February 22nd, 2021 council meeting. After consideration of the resolution, council is prepared to move forward with second reading. And the motion is that council approves second reading of the taxi bylaw. Someone would move that, please.
So moved.
Thank you. And seconder, Councillor Huntley, I saw your hand. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the second reading of the taxi bylaw. Is there any discussion on this matter? No discussion? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the second reading of the taxi bylaw. Slow electrons today. They're soggy. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. So we'll move on now to our recommendations and reports. And these recommendations are arising from the CAC meetings on March the 8th, will be presented and moved by Deputy Mayor Savage. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. The first recommendation to council is a withdrawal from the Capital Fund number 2 at the March 8, 2021 meeting of CAC. Director Kroll presented her request for a second withdrawal from the Town Capital Reserve in the amount of $131,723.01 for various projects which require funding. CAC recommend the council approve a withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the Town Capital Reserve general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the 2020 and 2021 year. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder? Thank you, Councillor Huntley. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the town's capital general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the year 2020-2021. Is there any discussion on this matter? Ready for the question? The question is to recommend approval of the withdrawal of $131,723.01 from the town's capital general allocation to fund several acquisitions during the year 2020-2021. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and that motion is carried. Thank you.
Next one is the withdrawal from Equipment Reserve number 2 at the March 8, 2021 meeting of CAC. Director Kroll presented her request for a second withdrawal from the Town Equipment Reserve Fund in the amount of $27,238.51 for transportation expenses and the major overhaul of a plow truck. CAC recommended that council approve a withdrawal $27,238.51 from the Town Equipment Reserve to partially fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions. I so move.
Seconder, please. Thank you. Councillor Zabian. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the town's capital equipment reserve to partially fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is to approve the withdrawal of $27,238.51 from the town's capital equipment reserve to partially fund 2020-2021 transportation equipment acquisitions. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you.
Next recommendation, at the March 8th, 2021 meeting of CAC, Director Kroll presented her request for a blanket withdrawal from the Town Operating Reserve. CAC committee recommend that council approve a blanket resolution for a possible withdrawal from the Town of Kentville Operating Reserve in the amount of a current operating deficit should one occur at March 31st, 2021, after all year-end transactions are quantified at the March 29th, 2021 meeting. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gerard, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve a blanket resolution for withdrawal from the town's operating reserve to cover a current operating deficit should one occur at March 31st, 2021. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that council approve a blanket resolution for withdrawal from the town's operating reserve to cover a current operating deficit should one occur at the March 31st, 2021. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Deputy Mayor, before we go on, CAO, every year we do these withdrawals from operating fund. Is it necessary that we have motions on the books for these, or is this strictly an administrative function that could be handled under operations?
Mayor, the typical approach would be that as you're closing your books at year end, if there was any unusual items, that you could call a special meeting to have that addressed. This has kind of been the town of Kentville's approach over the years, so that a special meeting wouldn't be needed. Obviously, if it was a material item of any kind, I would bring that back in and call a special meeting. But should you get to the end of the year and have a very small variance, then this is really the most expeditious way to handle that without calling that special.
All right, thank you very much.
Next recommendation, Council Valley Waste Resolution. At the March 8, 2021 meeting of CAC, Director Kroll presented her report on the Valley Waste payment to Municipal Finance Corp in May 2021. This resolution requires an approval of council. CAC recommend that council authorize the attached guarantee resolution for debenture 36/A/1 in the amount of $46,504, the town of Kentville's 10.5% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership. I so move.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Gerard.
Freudian.
Yeah, it was Freudian. I was gonna say garbage guy, but you're the counselor on that committee. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you're the garbage guy. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the guarantee resolution for debenture 36-A-1 in the amount of $46,504. The town of Kentville's 10.05% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership. Is there any discussion on this matter?
I would just, for the record, like to say that I disapprove again. I will vote for this motion, but I disapprove again of spending next year's funds or this coming year's funds before we've had a chance to go through the budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? So the question is that council approve the guaranteed resolution for debenture 36-A-1 in the amount of $46,504, the town of Kentville's 10.05% share of the Valley Region Solid Waste Resource Management Authority Partnership. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried.
The next one deals with regional sewer operating budget. At the March 8th meeting of CAC, Director Bell reviewed the operations and the funding of the regional sewer facility and outlined the process of approving their budget each year. So at that meeting, CAC recommended that the council approve the town of Kentville share of the regional sewer operating budget in the amount of $804,800 for the year 2021-2022. So I just want to make a note around that, if I can just make a note on that. So as a member of Regional Sewer Committee, I would recommend that we not accept the recommendation from CAC, as within the budget, there's a small operational reserve that we were able to confirm at the March 18th meeting. And that small reserve was actually included in the $804,800. So Kentville raised at that meeting that we support the capital reserve, but not necessarily the operational reserve. So for 2021-22, the operational reserve is proposed to be $8,800, which would be shared amongst the partners. And our share of that is 50.19% or $4,417. So we have the option to pass one of two motions that we can approve the $804,800 that was recommended by Director Bell at the last CAC meeting, and put them on notice that we're not prepared to support any future efforts to include an operational reserve in the budget, or reduce the approval. And so I'll read this. Kentville reduce the approval of the joint sewer budget by $4,417 which is Kentville's share of the $8,800, from a total of $804,800 to $800,383. So I'm prepared to make a motion that town council approves the Kentville share of the 2021-22 regional sewer operating budget in the amount of $800,383 as opposed to the $804,800. I so move.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder on that? And then we'll open it up for discussion.
Could Deputy Mayor repeat that motion? I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely.
Deputy Mayor, I have it up on the screen. Is that correct? This is option 1 and this is option 2?
Correct. Mhm. So option 1 would be approving the $804,800 that was recommended at our last CAC meeting. And that we would put the county on notice that we will not be contributing to their operating budget on a go-forward basis or operating reserve. And then option number 2 is that Kentville reduce the approval of the joint sewer budget by $4,417. Kentville share of the $8,800 from the total of $804,800 to $800,383.
Do you want all of that wording in there?
Can we change that wording so that we're not, it's bordering on negative by doing that reduce. So if we were to say that approve the town of Kentville share of the regional sewer system 2021-2022 operating budget, less the town of Kentville share of the operational reserve.
Yeah.
In the amount of $800,383.
Is that?
Yep.
And I would second the Deputy Mayor's motion.
Thank you.
That's option 2.
That's correct. Option 2. So it has been moved and seconded that council approve the town of Kentville's share of the operational sewer system operating budget, less the town of Kentville's share of the operating reserve in the amount of $800,383 for the year 2021-2022. Is there any discussion? So although we did have a motion coming out of CAC, a recommendation, because Deputy Mayor is the member who attends the sewer committee, she is bringing information that we did not have at that time to this meeting, and therefore making a new recommendation to us based on the information that she gained at her meeting. Councillor Maxwell, did I see your hand?
Yes, I just didn't understand, but I think I do now with your
Okay.
explanation. Is it just us and Kings County involved in the regional sewer?
No, there's us, PepsiCo, New Minas.
And the
Kings-
county.
And the county.
And so are they all doing this, this type of thing or not?
With the exception of the Minus and Kings County, of course. So PepsiCo and the town of Kentville will not be contributing to an operating reserve. And that's not to say that if there is a shortfall in the operations that we give our part. It's just, we're not giving it in advance.
So we're
Because-
keeping the money in our bank
Right.
account instead of putting it in their bank
Yes.
account.
Right, I understand. Okay, thank you.
So is there any further discussion on this matter? So I'm just going to reiterate, this is one of the important things when you're attending committee meetings, is the information that you bring back has the potential of changing things depending on when meetings fall. So this is why your attendance at meetings, or if you can't make it, your alternate's attendance at a meeting is so very important. All right, so the question is that the council approve the town of Kentville's share of the regional sewer system operating budget, less the town of Kentville's share of the operating reserve in the amount of $800,383 for the year 2021-2022. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. And just as a reminder, you can change your vote anytime until Jennifer actually switches it over.
Last recommendation to council at the March 8th, 2021 meeting of the Council Advisory Committee, Mayor Snow reviews the need for 2 councillor appointments, Deputy Mayor Kate Savage to the Kentville Business Community Board, and the second councillor Paula Huntley to oversee the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Partners for Climate Progress. I so move.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council adopt the committees and appointments as presented. Is there any discussion on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that council adopt the committees and appointments as presented. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. And that is the end of our recommendations to council. All right, we'll move on to our councillor reports, starting with Councillor Gerard, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last council was February 22nd. Last CAC was March the 8th. March 12th, met with Chief Giacchetto. We discussed her email and upcoming retirement. And we also, the province is doing a provincial audit on police service delivery or service in the province. So what that's going to look like, nobody really knows, because the province has just sort of announced that they're going to do it. Another thing that we discussed was because of the Porter Pick decommissioning police cars, uniforms, stuff like that. Uniforms, yes. We almost thought that there was going to be a chance that we couldn't trade in or sell our used police cars, but we will be able to. Valley Waste, we had some capital purchases at Valley Waste, a forklift for $39,000, a wheel loader for $285,000. Contract cleaning for both the Eastern and Western Center for $76,000, which is a 3-year contract. Also, and I didn't put a price, but the security cameras for both East and West outfits were about $75,000. The powers that be at Valley Waste, for those of you that don't know what EPR is, extended producer responsibility. So very briefly, when you buy a box of cereal, you pay 2 cents towards the recycling of that box. Several provinces in Canada receive that money, but the province, the provincial government has yet to start making those companies that I believe the cutoff is $1 million. So anyone lower than $1 million is not responsible for paying it. But it's let's face it, it's the Walmarts, the Kellogg's, those folks. So to this province, that means about $16 million of recycling money. So hopefully with the new shuffle cabinet, the people that are in charge of waste in the environment are very familiar with that. So hopefully that's coming. Joint Fire Services, we did a tour of the department, and still the ongoing discussions about the contract with Camp Aldershot. At SAPG, we're still talking about DoD training, the provincial audit, the RCMP contract. Officers who were not deemed emergency services are now deemed, or at least the frontline officers, folks that work in the office or sort of people that work at desks are not deemed that. Human rights training session number 2, County Police Commission. So the police commission, it was brought up by Deputy Chief Smith. They are looking for council to approve, and I don't know whether we do that now or later, a new cruiser. And because of COVID, this happened last year as well, because of COVID, ordering them and getting them here in a timely fashion is a challenge. So they asked on Friday when we had our meeting, if I would bring this to council. What else did we do? We were having Dave Bell, Director Bell, is going to attend our May meeting because a lot of questions have been coming up about crosswalks, lighting, stuff that pertains more to the traffic authority than to the police. February 23rd, human rights training, March 4th, Bridgewater Board of Police Commission. We got invited down to their meeting to present on body worn cameras. So as I said, your worship, I don't know whether that's something I do now or later, or maybe I should have added it to the agenda.
It'll have to come to the agenda. We need more information than this, including the amount.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep, perfect.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions for Councillor Gerard on his, certainly, Deputy Mayor?
Councillor Gerard, under Valley Waste, the cap purchases that are being done,
Yes.
are they being just out of cash flow? Are they being financed? Are we responsible for a portion of that, I'm assuming?
So let me just see here. They
And was it planned, were they planned? I'm assuming they were.
They were planned. So Ken Redden, who was the operations manager since the inception in 1999, who retired about 5 years ago, is back temporarily until they find a new one, trying to get things in order.
Okay.
It's been in disarray for a few years now. Things are finally starting to get in order. So to answer your question, the forklift and the loader, I believe, are their capital purchases. The cleaning is going to be an operations thing. Whether there will be an ask or not that comes to this council, it'll be all in the budget that.
But they're being financed, are they, those capital purchases, the forklift and the wheel? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Your Worship. Same dates that Councillor Gerard had said at the last council meeting and CAC meeting. Under the committee meetings, I attended Kings Point to Point. One of the things we are trying to do right now is hire a new manager. The lady that's there will be retiring. So the posting and the hiring process is on the table right now, and we've got a discussion about budgets. Also with King's Transit, another hiring general manager. So we launched an info meeting and we talked about, what is it we're looking for in a general manager? So we had that meeting for sure. And from my understanding, people are now starting to apply, so that's great. One of the new meetings that I had never been to before, the liaison and oversight committee, Valley ran, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm learning a lot about economic development in a lot of the meetings that I'm going to, so thank you for that. Moving on, in some of the miscellaneous events, I seem to be tuning into a lot of them. One of the ones that I really wanted to call on, and it said building youth futures with Canadian Minister of Diversity, and she had a guest who was from the States who had worked with Obama. And they discussed kind of things that we were doing and compared to them, and in areas Canada is ahead of them. She even said that with talks about youth committees moving a little faster, and they're just talking about it now, whereas we have things in place that they can move forward. It was quite interesting, and just took part in the Lions Hall. One of their members, I was invited as a supper guest. That was interesting. And and of course, when I came aboard as counselor, one of my goals that I was asked, what would I like to do? And I really wanted to be involved with some sort of mentoring program. So of course, the town of Kemple has had something, and I've been lucky enough to be invited, and for the Mentoring Plus program. So we had the introductory and presentation, and I'm jumping aboard that one with full gusto. That's pretty exciting. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, Councilor Maxwell.
Thank you. I did submit this on Tuesday evening, put it in my council folder. And I don't know if you didn't see it or I put it in the wrong folder, so just let me know if I.
My fault.
No problem. I've attended all the council and CAC meetings. This month, I didn't have any committee meetings during this time period. However, April will be a big reporting month for me, so I've already have meetings lined up for then. Took part in the February 23rd Human Rights Training Session. This was session number 1. This day focused on an overview of the Human Rights Act, role of the Human Rights Commission, discrimination, leadership training in the Indigenous community, historical timelines of human rights declarations with focus on the Nova Scotia community. And I found this day to be a very informative day. It was educational as well, and something I think all political leaders should take part in. I attended the second human rights training session on March 23rd. This was another worthwhile day. We discussed bias, white fragility, and privilege with emphasis on anti-Black racism. I took particular note of the danger of bias in the workplace and also had my eyes open by an activity done with a group that clearly demonstrated the effect of white privilege. Another very informative session. My only regret with all of this was that my previous term on council did not include these sessions, and I feel that our council could have definitely benefited from it at the time. And I'm glad that most of our councilors took part of this time. On February 20th, I watched a webinar that was sent out by the mayor on operating and capital grants for municipalities, and found that to be quite informative after having gone through both of those budget processes. So that's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the councillor? No? All right, moving on. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Worship. Just all regular meetings, CAC and last council meeting. Feb 25th, I stood in for her worship at the REN task force roundtable discussion, and we had a really good discussion around the table around the current business climate and the trends around the valley as it relate to housing and new business. I will say Town of Kentville certainly stood out with regards to the activity that we're having in the business park and new residential lots, low vacancy in the downtown, and an overall increase in our residential tax base year over year. And then West Hants did make a comment on that call about separating from the REN. So that's unfortunate, but we'll move ahead. March 11th was Investment Advisory Council. I had a report from our investment advisor, and after our year-end withdrawal, we are still at a healthy 13,968,000, and our year-end withdrawal was the 460,000. We didn't need to take the contingency this year. Many items are affecting the market right now, the election, of course, vaccines, etc. So we await the response back from the Minister of Municipal Affairs, or the Deputy Minister, I guess, probably will be, around approving or modifying our newly revised investment policy statement. And certainly the end goal with our new revised IPS is for the town to maintain income while diversifying significantly. We reviewed a series of equity type investments that will fit in nicely with the new IPS. March 18th was Regional Sewer, where we reviewed the budgets, operating and capital. And we discussed some larger projects on the horizon, that being the desludging being one of the largest. And operations and compliance reports were reviewed, and capital updates were provided as well. March 24th, I attended my first source water protection meeting and Kentville Water Commission meeting. And I won't go into that, but Director Bell basically reviewed the wellfield report and the efficiency of water flow, and that we're within our permissible water usage. and that our water is considered to be very good quality. Some miscellaneous events were Feb 23rd, did human rights training, section 1. March 12th was the REN AGM, and also on Feb 20th, the same as Councillor Maxwell, I reviewed the operating and capital grants module. And that is my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Deputy Mayor? All right, Councillor York, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in addition to the council and CAC meetings, I attended the KCA-PTA monthly meeting, as well as Deputy Mayor, I attended the Water Commission and the Source Water Protection and the Police Commission meeting as well. So I won't add to that, except to say that in the Police Commission, we discussed hosting town halls for the community with regards to the Police Commission. I attended a couple of webinars about community boards and police commissions in general, and opening up conversations to the public and the community about your police commission. So we'll be hosting in the near future, in the spring or late spring, early summer, a couple of town halls about the police commission and the work that we're doing. I attended the March break scavenger hunt with my children, which was a lot of fun. Much to their chagrin, we did not enter for prizes, so they have me to thank for that. But thank you to the Parks and Rec staff, it was wonderful. Director Bedingfield sent us some information about a webinar about the emerald ash beetle, and it's an invasive species that is making its way east. So I learned a lot about trap trees that I didn't think I would need to know, but lo and behold, here we are. And I've learned a lot, and it seems like something our community might be needing in the near future, unfortunately. I didn't list it here, but I did attend the ABCC AGM. They elected some new people to their committee, and that was an informative session. I also took part in a webinar about Black Lives Matter and environmental racism. It was held with Senator Thomas Bernard, and it was absolutely fascinating. It was done through a board out of Pictou for social workers. So I forget the actual name, but it was the social workers of Nova Scotia, I think, in the Pictou chapter. It was a wonderful webinar. On the 19th of March, I was able to participate in an interview with some Acadia community development students, their first year students, and they were gathering stories about the Kemptville Ravine to better understand the historical significance and its potential as a gathering space for reconciliation and nature connection and community well-being. It was a great session. The students had wonderful, wonderful questions. We had a great back and forth, and I really look forward to seeing that project when it's completed. In addition to the February 23rd, I also attended the March 23rd anti-Black racism training. So it was the second day. It was put on by the Human Rights Commission. I think it's a bit redundant to keep talking about it, except to say that it was incredibly impactful. And I'm really glad that we were able to bring that training to council and then bring it to our various committees and how we operate and govern in this town. So I'm really grateful for that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the council? None? All right, moving on, Councillor Sabian, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Attended the last council meeting on the 22nd of February, last VHC on March 8th. And the only committee meeting I had was the Investment Advisory Committee on the 11th of March, and Deputy Mayor staff kind of touched up on all of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the councillor? None, moving on. All right, my turn. So it's a busy month. Don't know where time goes. I think I'll say that the highlights, the King's Mayors are attempting to meet again, and of course talking about regional economic development, tourism, and facilities from that perspective. Again, on the 3rd of March, there was NSFM Mayors and Wardens call. We're not doing weekly calls anymore. Typically, they're happening as we need them, and the new minister of DMA, not of DAM. This is where I say DAM autocorrect. Brendan McGuire came to speak to us just to tell us that he was really looking forward to establishing a partnership with the municipalities, and the fact that it was very much going to be an open door policy. So it was actually a really nice segue into where we go from here. On the 8th of March, Valley Pants Quality of Life, and it was a call with Engage Nova Scotia. I'm just going to say this again, when you start looking at our quality of life here, people have very good things to say. And when you look at it overall of all of Nova Scotia, our area, Valley has the highest quality of life. The funny thing is that it's when you start digging down into that and teasing it out a little bit. So when you look at the youth numbers and when you look at senior numbers, both those groups are very happy and actually kind of skew things. And then when you start looking at people with disabilities or single income families and that sort of thing, things start to change quite a bit. And then there was an interesting one when looking at people who come from away, particularly people who immigrated here, and their sense of safety is actually higher than most people who live here, but their sense of engagement is much lower. So they feel very safe being here, but they don't feel that they're being engaged. So it's that old story that I guess as Nova Scotians that we're happy to see people come and we're very good to you, but we're not sure we want to keep you around. So you have to be here for a while before we cozy up too much to you. Again, I'm with the MIT REAP, and that's, again, more economic development. We're launching that, and next month we're actually going to be doing our training sessions with MIT. Again, it will be Zoom, so I don't get to go to Boston for it, but it would have been one of those things. King's Mayor's Committee, again, Regional Economic Development. I can't tell you how much that keeps coming up. And then Source Water Protection, Water Commission, Human Rights Training. Kentville Ravine, I also had the opportunity to sit with a couple of first-year Acadia students, again, via Zoom, but it was a really great interview and really enjoyed it. And then on the 23rd of March, the continuation of our human rights training. So I'm calling Zoom calls conferences now because it seems like I don't get out of the office much, but I did get to attend a Michelin Cities video conference on the 24th of February, and it was actually out of Paris. So there were people from 22 countries on the Zoom call, and it was actually 6 pages worth of Zoom, if you can believe it. But it was a really great conference, and I've included a synopsis at the end of this, and I will circulate the link to the video if you're interested in seeing it. But it was really good. The 25th and the 26th of Feb, I attended the NSFM board retreat, and again we retreated in the office using Zoom, and we actually had Gordon McIntosh. For those of you who return, you'll recall that Gordon did some work here in Kentville for us back in December of 2017. And so anyway, so that was quite good. And we had a facilitator out of Cape Breton, Robert Bernard, doing land acknowledgement. He was fantastic. I have to tell you, if you ever have the opportunity to hear Robert Bernard speak, he is really, really good. And I have to say that at some point, I really would like to share what he had to say about land acknowledgements and how we do them well and move forward with that. On the 18th of March, I got to attend another webinar with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and this one was about rural growth and innovation. I've included the YouTube link here, and if you get the opportunity, it's well worth an hour to watch because some of the things they're talking about. So one of the things they were talking about is that in Canada, most of our farms are small farms compared to when you start looking at the US or other countries. But that we're really pulling above our size when it comes to agriculture. And the fact that when our products go to other countries, how clean and safe they are, that there's really no worries about it. Now, one of the interesting things that they were talking about from out in Alberta was the fact that we ship peas to China so that China can take the gluten off of them and sell them back to us as protein. So eat your chicken. because the cost of creating that green pea protein is a lot more than what you think it is. So we don't do that here in Canada, believe it or not. We grow the peas, but we don't make the protein on it. It has to go to China for that. So anyway, you'll see some committee meeting details there with regards to our Source Water Protection Committee and to do with our Water Commission. We will be having a budget meeting on Wednesday, April the 21st. For our water system, and that budget will marry up with the town of Clearfield budget. And the other thing, we are switching our caustic soda from a 50% solution to a 30% solution. I wish I had Director Bell's prop, because it was pretty interesting what happens to this sodium hydroxide when it gets into the pipes. It basically starts to close them up. So we were having issues, and our folks got on that and got it all fixed up. So really nice. Miscellaneous events, all kinds of them. On the 2nd of March, I had a chance to sit in with our MP Cody Blois. He had MP Seamus O'Regan do a pre-budget discussion with us, and it was excellent. If you Cody is always sending out these opportunities to meet other MPs. So if you get an opportunity, I would say it's well worth an hour of your time to listen in on it. And on the 4th of March, I did an interview with Jeff Samet for International Women's Day on Sirius XM radio. So video did not kill the radio star. And that is my report. So I would accept a motion on the councillors and mayor's reports as presented. Councillor Maxwell, thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Huntley, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that councillor and mayor's reports be accepted as presented. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. We have no new business. We have no correspondence. Do we have any public comment? That's okay. I was speeding along. I was lulling you into a false sense of security. Let me just scan that. We have some additional public, but I don't think it's regarding this. Oh, all right, thank you very much. However, we do have confidential land business, which must be conducted in a closed session. So we require a motion to go into the closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for the adjournment. Let's have a motion. Thank you. And seconder, thank you. Councillor York. It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session. The question is on adoption of motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried, and the time is 6:49. Right, we're off Facebook.